staying with you any longer doesn't benefit our marriage. I've always been alone, raising our child by myself." Saying this, my wife took our high school daughter and left. What I was left with was the mortgage of a luxurious high-rise condo and the large furniture we bought when we first got married. I looked around the empty room and felt utterly hopeless, all alone. I'm George, 45 years old. After graduating from college, I struggled and finally passed the bar exam on my 4th attempt. I joined a law firm after completing my legal training. I went through the grind of being a freelance lawyer, working late nights and weekends as a matter of course. When I was a newly minted lawyer, I married Lily, a go-getter career woman. Even after getting married, we were both consumed by our work, but a few years later, we were blessed with a daughter, Julie. I wanted to help Lily, who was struggling with parenting, but I was hardly ever there to support her. Not only was I busy with study groups on weekends, but I also had to attend golf and other business entertaining events. Moreover, both Lily and I had families far away, so we had no one to rely on for childcare. Thus, Lily handled almost everything from daycare drop-offs to household chores, and I remained involved in parenting for over a decade. I opened my own law firm to increase my control over my time and tried to repair our strained marriage. Though I was still busy, being my own boss allowed me to avoid late nights and made it easier to take weekends off. I wanted to make up for our past misconnections. I desperately tried to help Lily with household chores and spend more time with Julie, putting in a commendable effort. But it might have been too late. Whenever I was home, I felt their cold stares. Julie, having graduated middle school, didn't need me anymore. One evening, "Can we talk? I have something important to discuss." Sitting across from Lily, I was unaware of her true intentions. As Julie is starting high school, I want a divorce. I can live on my own and support Julie. There's no need for us to live together as a family of 3. Once Julie is independent, I can't envision spending our later years together, so it's better we start our separate lives as soon as possible. Lily explained this matter-of-factly. I was stunned by her sudden proposal and couldn't think straight. But I've tried my hardest, setting up my own firm to create time for us. We don't need to talk about divorce. There's still a chance to fix things. With my income, you don't have to work so hard. I tried my best to persuade her, but Lily's expression darkened. I've always hated that mindset of yours. I don't want to be provided for. I want to live as equals. I can never forgive you for turning your back on the family when it was hardest. I want to live freely with Julie from now on. As she said this, she placed the divorce papers in front of me. Not only had she completed her part, but she had also already signed them. I was speechless. That moment, I remembered Lily was a fierce career woman before we got married. It was too late. Everything was far too late. Upon divorce, we proceeded with discussions on property division, custody, and child support. I never imagined my profession as a lawyer would be useful in such a situation. Once all the procedures were completed, Lily and Julie left the house. Their backs, not once looking back, showed no signs of lingering attachment. The divorce shattered the life plan I had envisioned. If I was to live alone, there was no need to work so hard anymore. Decades of lonely days lay ahead. I kept working, but I had lost all purpose in life, mechanically commuting between my office and my empty condo. Good morning. It's been 5 years since I started my own law firm. I go to the office at the same time every morning. Fortunately, I have a stable client base from my previous firm. There are 2 women who handle the office work. One is Elizabeth, in her 40s, a veteran in administrative skills. The other is a calm and beautiful woman in her late 20s, named Jessica, who has been an office clerk for only half a year. I've been asking them to focus on accounting tasks, but recently, Something has been bothering me. There's a tense relationship between the two female employees, with Elizabeth, the senior, being particularly harsh towards Jessica. Unlike other employees who are often out, they work facing each other every day, making the atmosphere in the office quite evident. Since Elizabeth is in a higher position and more experienced, Jessica often ends up being criticized and becomes timid. Before I knew it, Jessica was becoming more withdrawn, afraid of getting scolded, and lost her liveliness. It wasn't like Elizabeth to be so mean, so I wondered what had happened. Both being women, the situation needs to be handled delicately. I'll listen to both sides separately to understand each of their stories. Then I'll decide how to proceed based on what I learn. Thinking this, I asked Jessica to run an errand to the post office, then took the opportunity to talk to Elizabeth. Lately, I've noticed you two aren't communicating well. Is everything okay? Did something happen? Elizabeth started venting as if she had been waiting for this moment. George, you have to hear this. Jessica's paperwork is full of errors. She apologizes but keeps repeating the same mistakes. I don't want to be angry, but she doesn't consider my feelings. Do you know how many times I've had to correct her work? I hurriedly calmed her down, saying, "Just calm down." Apparently, she reached her limit with Jessica's continuous mistakes at work. Jessica is a calm and beautiful woman in her late 20s. She's not only good-natured but also stylish, and she's well-liked by male colleagues and clients. Sitting across from her and being constantly reminded of their different treatments, Elizabeth might not find it amusing. Though she didn't say it outright, it was clear that there were reasons beyond work that aggravated Elizabeth. I had been concerned about their relationship for some time, but had struggled to take action. If I sided with Elizabeth, Jessica might feel cornered and quit, but if I supported Jessica, Elizabeth's behavior might worsen. I thought about calming Elizabeth while teaching Jessica how not to trigger her, and considered rearranging their seats to minimize interference. That seemed like the best I could do right now. Dealing with women can be complicated and troublesome. Suggesting that we just go out for drinks and let bygones be bygones would likely be dismissed as insensitive. Worse, they both might start seeing me as an adversary. All I wanted was for them to continue working peacefully, without having to put in extra effort. I sighed, oh boy, holding my head in frustration, cursing my own immaturity for not being able to resolve this despite being a lawyer. Then one day, on my way back from a client visit, I spotted Jessica sitting alone on a park bench, looking downcast. Seeing this as an opportunity to discuss her issues with Elizabeth, I approached her gently. Tired, huh? Taking a break? George, sorry to bother you, but I've been concerned because you've seemed down lately. When Jessica turned to face me, she awkwardly averted her eyes. I'm sorry, She suddenly looked up, struggling to find words, and tears began to overflow from her large eyes. This was bad. As a lawyer, I'm used to dealing with tears, but this situation in a park during broad daylight was highly problematic. I quickly offered her a handkerchief and sat beside her, gently calming her down. Although I felt uncomfortable being watched by curious onlookers, I decided to patiently wait until she regained her composure. Despite the discomfort of being watched, I went to buy a cup of coffee from a nearby cafe. Holding the coffee I handed her, she cried for a while, but eventually managed to whisper a faint sorry. Are you okay? Did something happen? Jessica, if you'd like, I'm here to listen. Talking about it might help you feel better. I handed the coffee for her. Jessica quietly said thank you and began to speak in bits and pieces. Actually, I had a fiancé, and we were planning to marry next year, but he cheated on me with another woman, and she got pregnant. I had no choice but to step back, and I'm just shocked. Internally surprised, I maintained my composure and nodded, saying I see. I can't sleep alone at home. It's too unsettling. Even though I've been taking medication prescribed by a doctor, the side effects make me space out, and now I'm constantly messing up at work. I feel terrible for causing trouble at the office, even though I'm trying to be careful. Listening to her tearful confession, I finally understood her situation. But the roots of the problem to be solved run deep. Above all, she needs to recover on her own, and there's only so much I can do to help. Take your time to rest and recover. If you don't want to be alone at home, maybe consider going back to your family home for a while. Relying too much on medication isn't good either. It's important to rest both your mind and body. I genuinely tried to offer my support. Thank you, I appreciate it, but I can't go back home. The news about my broken engagement has already spread, and I'm not in a position to return, especially after sending out all the wedding invitations. She was in a situation with no easy way out. I pondered deeply with my hands clasped. I see. Well, give me some time, okay? I'll try to think of something too. Standing up, I saw her looking at me, slightly bewildered. For now, don't dwell on things too much. If being at work helps distract you from your pain, then keep coming in as usual. Until you feel better, I'll assign you different tasks, so you don't have to worry about making mistakes. I'll head back to the office first and let everyone know that I've assigned you to different field work. So take your time and come back when you're ready. After saying this, I headed back to the office without waiting for her response. The next day, I rearranged the office setup. Coincidentally, our contracted cleaning service was scheduled for the weekend. Explaining it as a redecoration in anticipation of their visit, no one questioned the change. I moved Elizabeth's seat away from Jessica and assigned Jessica different tasks. These included organizing office supplies, managing clients, and overseeing compliance with employee overtime and paid leave. Unlike her original accounting role, these tasks wouldn't lead to critical errors, and I would be the final checker, which eased the burden. Assigning a male colleague to assist Elizabeth as her support would likely improve her mood. The male staff, involved in their work's financial aspects, gained new insights and ways of working. It was a general release of tension for everyone. This approach unexpectedly improved the workplace environment significantly within a month. I approached Jessica, who seemed much calmer and more energetic. "Hi, George. Sorry to bother you, but could you take a look at this?" Handing her the documents, I watched as Jessica's eyes widened in surprise. It was a document I had compiled during my spare time, detailing how to claim damages from her former fiancé for breach of engagement. In cases like hers, where the fiance cheats and calls off the engagement, it's possible to claim damages. I know money isn't the solution, and it's not about the money, but you shouldn't have to suffer in silence. And it's legally recognized to claim for the emotional pain you've endured. Jessica stared intently at the documents, frozen. It's up to you to decide what to do. As a lawyer, I'm just showing you an option. If you decide to take action, I'm here to help. I'll assign an employee from my firm who specializes in divorce and women's issues to handle your case. I spoke kindly but firmly. Jessica softly thanked me and said, "Please give me some time to think," before leaving. As I told her, I was fine with whatever she decided. If it could be a source of strength for her and help her move forward, that's all that mattered. Feeling a sense of closure, I returned to my remaining work. A few days later, I faced a dilemma. Suddenly feeling dizzy at the office, I nearly fainted. The diagnosis was anemia due to fatigue, and I had to be hospitalized for tests, forcing me to take almost a week off work. Now convalescing at home, the vast condo seemed excessive, with empty containers of fast food meals and ready meals littering the space. How many years had it been since my wife and daughter left? I had been working nonstop to forget my loneliness and maintain my lifestyle, but perhaps now the bill was coming due. Though I'd tried my best, the reality that my family wouldn't return hit me anew. My initial hope that they would always be able to come back ended up being nothing but wishful thinking. Living in such a luxurious place didn't make my everyday life any different from the impoverished days in my cheap college apartment. In fact, now back from the hospital, I struggled with what to eat. Maybe it's time to move out and find a more comfortable place to live. Alone in my room, where no one could hear me, I muttered to myself about how this house no longer felt like mine. Just then, who could it be? Peering at the camera monitor, I saw Jessica standing there. For a moment, I doubted my eyes, wondering if I was mistaken, but there was no doubt about it. It was Jessica. "George, good evening. I'm sorry to bother you while you were off, but I brought some urgent documents to deliver directly to you." Taken aback by this unexpected visit, I composed myself and unlocked the elevator hall. But then I realized the appalling state of my apartment. This is bad. But Jessica was already on her way up in the elevator. As I frantically began cleaning up, throwing trash into garbage bags, the doorbell rang again. "Welcome, I'm sorry you had to come all this way." Sending her away at the door with a simple "that's all," then, would be extremely rude, no matter the circumstances. Realizing too late that I was still in my pajamas, I cursed my own lack of foresight. "Are you okay? I heard you suddenly collapsed and was really worried," Jessica said, peering at my face with concern, seemingly unfazed by my appearance. I repeated, "I'm fine," and let her in. There was nothing more I could do. I had no choice but to resign myself to the situation. And as expected, she froze in the living room filled with garbage bags. Haha, actually, I divorced a few years ago and my wife took our daughter with her. I always relied on my wife for household chores, so I'm clueless about cooking and cleaning. Ending up in the hospital due to unhealthy living. That's not what a manager, let alone an entrepreneur, should be like. I rambled on, too embarrassed to make eye contact. "George, I understand your situation, but it's not good to be in this environment, especially when you're recovering. I'll help. Let's clean up and ventilate the room." I was at a loss for words. As soon as I understood her intent, I was hit with an impulse to protest. "Absolutely not," and hastily stopped Jessica, as she was already reaching for a garbage bag to start cleaning. "It's okay, really. I can clean up. Just sit somewhere comfortable." I took the garbage bags from Jessica and began cleaning efficiently. She watched me move briskly, a puzzled look on her face. "I'll go to the supermarket across the street and get some groceries. I'll ring the intercom when I'm back, so please open the door." Once again, I was baffled by her words. But when I turned around, she was already heading out the door. What's going on here? Wait, I should give her some money. But she had already left. I hurried to finish cleaning up before she returned, overwhelmed by the situation. I couldn't keep up with the emotions brought on by the unfolding situation. I felt pathetic for being constantly outmaneuvered and overwhelmed by the events. And I was surprised at how much I was shaken by the presence of her. "I'll use your kitchen, if that's okay." Jessica returned with bags full of groceries and began cooking skillfully in the kitchen. I hadn't heard such rhythmic chopping in a long time. She had been living alone for a while, cooking for herself every day. It was a side of her I hadn't seen at the office. "Here you go, chicken soup. It's gentle on a weak stomach and warming. Please eat." Before my admiring eyes, a steaming bowl of soup was served. The chopped onions and soup made it incredibly appetizing. How long had it been since I had such a meal? I thanked Jessica with a satisfied smile and tasted it. Delicious, truly delicious. For the first time in a long while, I felt a meal spread warmth throughout my body. Jessica watched me eat with pleasure. Feeling awkward, I gently set down my spoon. "Thank you so much for today. You've been a great help. I should head back to the office, though. I don't want to keep you here too late." I honestly expressed my feelings of gratitude and apology. Previously, You talked to me about claiming damages, right? Today's visit is just a small token of my appreciation for that. I was about to dismiss her gratitude with a no, it's nothing, but she continued. After giving it some thought, I decided not to pursue the lawsuit, but it's not about letting him get away with it. I've come to terms with the past as just that, the past, and am able to look forward now. In fact, I'm relieved that I realized all this before getting married. I don't want to waste my current time on a man from my past. Your support back then helped me find closure and the strength to start over in life. I started to say that's, but was at a loss for words. I see you, George, not just as a boss, but also as a reliable and wonderful manual. I'm serious about this, and if you ever need me, don't hesitate to call me. I'll be there. Her words, which could be taken as a confession, left me speechless. Seeing my reaction, Jessica too seemed to realize what she had said and blushed. Thank you. That was all I managed to say, and Jessica smiled warmly. Please take care of yourself and come back to the office soon. As she said this and I tried to see her off, she gently pushed me back inside the doorway. It's fine here. With no chance to argue, she began to close the door as I thanked her again. I meant what I said earlier. Right before closing the door, she peeked out and added those words. I stood at the door, my heart racing, unable to calm down. Her face lingered in my mind, filling me with an overwhelming sense of happiness.